That makes so much sense. And then can you tell us about this Excel spreadsheet, like the V1?
So it's definitely not like super sexy. It's not meant to be super sexy, but literally, if you can see my screen, I literally put everything in a Google sheet. And I started here with a set of criteria. So this is what I usually modeled in when I started with building it out in HubSpot. So this is just an example, contact information, business email, personal email, if they submitted a phone number, what industry are they from? So this is all the demographic attributes. And this really is what your company can look for. If you have something that enriches data at the lead level, like a Clearbit or some sort of add-on that, looks at the domain and then pulls in sort of like annual revenue. And like if they're a Global 2000 company or Forbes 500 or what have you, that can supplement the data. But as a skeleton, so like title, job role, geography. So if you only sell to the United States or if you sell worldwide, and then if you move down to sort of activities, if you're building an inbound engine or demand generation machine from scratch, what are your biggest activities that are happening at the time? A lot of it centers around a demo request. That is the highest converting, inbound to meeting to opportunity activity that we have. So how do we pump that up? How do we measure that? Also, if they attended a show, if they watched a webinar, if they registered, if they downloaded an ebook, contact us form. You can put things on here like visited desirable web pages. So that could be like your product page, your research library, your events page, your customer case study page. And then you can do things like, visit undesirable web pages. So if someone's visiting the career page, that's probably someone looking for a job. So you can sort of detract scores from that. So this is just a framework for basically a V1. And then here, literally, they're just, you just play around with the different formulas and figure out sort of what are the main buckets that you want your lead score to reflect. So for us, again, in the V1, when I initially first started at my previous company and this company, I started with inquiry. This is basically, from a score of 0 to 5. This is anyone who's cold, doesn't know who we are, super early. And then engage is the biggest bucket. They're doing some stuff. They're understanding who we are. They might know about our value prop for our space. And then MQL is obviously the biggest threshold. And then in a V2, you can definitely and certainly get a little bit more sophisticated. You can rank basically the company size. You can rank the different industries. You can score higher for like sort of hot titles versus like low titles. You can start subtracting scores for undesirable locations, and then add on more sort of activity attributes, and then do things like, if a particular contact doesn't do any activity for 30 days, then you subtract 10 points. So it's really fun. And this is how you build it out, and then you implement it.
The value, what you're saying is like a V1, like you're just like getting in the game from like nothing.
Yeah.
And it's super quick and it's super iterable, and it's just like, it's not that overwhelming. Like that's what I'm excited about.
It's really not. Yeah. It's really, and I think a lot of people, especially, I realized this too early in my career. I was afraid to attempt things like this because I was kind of afraid of failure, like, oh, what if it doesn't work? Now having been in the business for quite a long time, like it's okay. Like that's the only way that you learn. And that's definitely sort of the values that I like to instill in my team. Don't be afraid, that it doesn't work. There's tons of stuff that I've thought really passionately about and implemented, and it's been a huge failure, but you learn from it. And then you realize like going forward, like you have these learnings and, everything's iterable. Like everything's not set in stone.
That's so good, Jim. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for everything that you've shared with us. Like this has been incredible.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Boom.